Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I'm Nancy Lamond, AARP's Chief Advocacy and Engagement Officer. Today, 21st century technology has offered con artists a whole new array of ways and means to perpetrate fraud and scams on Americans of all ages. Today, we're going to borrow one of the favorite tactics of con artists. AARP Fraud Watch network staff and volunteers from 6 New England states and New York are going to be operating their own telemarketing boiler room, what we're going to call the reverse boiler room. But instead of hearing from crooks and con artists, residents throughout the region are going to receive tips and information on how to protect themselves from 2 very prevalent scams: IRS and tech support. Research conducted by AARP and the Department of Justice showed that consumer education can lower a victim's willingness to respond to fraudulent pitches by more than 50%. And that is why we are all here today. We know that if we reach people with a strong, clear, and positive prevention message, it can work. The Federal Trade Commission's Consumer Sentinel Network reported over 1.5 million fraud-related complaints in 2014. These victims reported losing over $1.7 billion with an average loss of around $500. More than half reported that the telephone was the initial point of contact.
I am so delighted to be here with my colleagues. I think this shows the value of AARP, the strength of AARP, the fact that you have the 4 of us here today from the New England region standing strong with you, with AARP, because we know as consumer advocates and those vested with the responsibility and the authority to take care of people, particularly vulnerable people. Each day, our offices hear from individuals who've been the target of scams or attempted scams or attempts to steal personal information. Unfortunately, we see how disproportionately so many of these scams and fraud attempts target older adults.
Now, AARP realized when we started to see these studies that we needed to redouble our efforts if we were going to have any hope of meeting the new challenges of arming Americans with the tools they needed to spot frauds and scams. In other words, the tools they absolutely need to use to protect themselves and their families. Our state offices and our dedicated volunteers have focused on developing strategic relationships with state attorneys general, as you see today, local law enforcement, and others such as the Better Business Bureaus and consumer affairs agencies in order to conduct activity like teletown halls, direct mail to drive awareness, collecting fraud stories, and document shredding events from coast to coast. Just so far this year, we've done 1,300 events, and we expect to do even more in the coming year.